Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Meet the Creative. We are very excited today because we have another book birthday happening. Yay! My favorite. Please welcome Chrissie Davies. I'm so excited to hear about your new book, which is about a cause very close to my heart. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Oh, well, it was midday actually when we're recording this, wherever you're listening. Hello, how
Yes.
are you?
Good. Now, I have been very remiss that I have been meaning to catch up with you for a little while now about this book that's come out. And I really hope that you're not just sick and tired of talking about it, because I know that so many people are wanting to know about this book, which is amazing. I mean, that's a really, really good sign that you've just been talking about it forever. But I need to know, tell me a little bit about where did the inspiration come from to write this book?
It's so interesting, Michelle. So for those of you who are listening, I've been in my business a decade now, and have obviously worked really hard to build my reputation and establish my credibility. And everybody kept telling me I needed to write a book. Now, for all of those who are listening, if you know or love somebody with ADHD, we don't like being told what to do. So as much as I know we're going to talk about creativity, but I find too, I'm one of these people that my creativity just hits. It just comes in bursts and waves. And when I'm told by somebody, this is what you need to write and this is what you need to write about, my brain literally explodes and cannot do it. Do you know what I mean? It literally just shuts down.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I wanted to take myself to that next level in terms of my credibility by publishing a book. And it felt like a very natural progression for me, being an educator who had read so many books and understood the power of storytelling to convey messaging to children, because I obviously have read thousands of books myself throughout my career. Children's books came very naturally to me and they lit me up and my creativity was on fire. And thankfully, everybody else agrees that they're amazing. So here we are.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about the title of the book and what you hope people are going to get out of it.
Yeah, sure. So my second book is Love Me, Love My ADHD, which we're going to be focusing on today. And the core of my work centers around me sharing this amazing vault of knowledge that I have with adults, parents, teachers, specialists, so that they can learn from me about all of the amazing skills and knowledge and theories and strategies and, lived experience of also raising and loving two beautiful ADHD children with their own kids or the students or their clients that they're working with. And so the book was a natural progression of that, because often people say to me, oh, what would Chrissie say now? Or I don't know how to talk to my child about their ADHD, or I just love the way that you communicate things. You have such a special way of, storytelling is a big skill set of mine. And so that's what the book is. It's a therapeutic tool that has been created specifically for adults to use with children. And what's been really beautiful about the book, Michelle, too, is that so many parents reading it along with their kids, having these incredible conversations through connection, storytelling, relational safety, and also talking about their own neurodivergence as a strength, as part of the fibre of their family. I mean, it's just been amazing.
Amazing. And as the center of the wheel with so many neurospicy people around me, story, like you were saying, is so important because you need to give context. If you're going to have a conversation with one of the many ADHD people in my life, being able to be a storyteller helps me so much to be able to communicate effectively with them, because story gives us the grounding and the backstory and all of the rest of it to have really effective communication. So I love that, and I love that you are using your superpower to help families. And what was your favorite part about this latest book?
I think, well, being creative, obviously, I love the whole, we wanted it to be a story that kids could obviously enjoy and be a part of, but it also had to include very important factual information about ADHD, right? Because we know that there's so much wrong information or, what people think they know about ADHD out there in the community. But I think my favourite part for me has to absolutely be the school scenes because, in heart of hearts, I still call myself an educator. I think once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher sort of thing, no matter where you end up. I'm still definitely being an educator, but now working with grown-ups instead of kids. But the school pages are really my ultimate dream for what I would love to see in every classroom in Australia, because getting the school setting right for my children has changed the course of their life significantly. And, the book is supposed to be the best case scenario for an ADHD family that is wrapped in love, acceptance, and people who understand them and work with them and go with their brains, not against them. And we know that the next most significant relationship to our kids is a teacher.
Yep.
And an educational setting, because our kids spend so much time there and it is so hard for them every single day.
Absolutely. And just as much as a really great teacher is so instrumental, having a teacher who doesn't understand an ADHD kid can be just as detrimental in the other direction. So yeah, I totally get that, totally understand. And I love that you're using the best case scenario to be the spotlight and to be the, that's the what we're all working towards. We want our kids to have the absolute best possible experience of school, which for a lot of kids, the reality is school's hard. Like school's it's not just the schoolwork that's hard, it's everything else that goes with it. So I know that you're very capable and you've had all of this amazing experience, but did you have any collaborators on this journey? Did anyone else help you bring this story to life?
Well, of course, the amazing illustrator, Trish Burton, who I couldn't have done it without. I love supporting other women in business. It's a really big philosophy of mine in, the way I live my life in general. And my editor, Danita from Mighty Writing Co., who's been with me for about 5 years. So we've worked together on the first book and on this book, and she really understands my creativity, how it ebbs and flows, and she's really accommodating and supportive of that as well. Like I sent her the book when it wasn't even finished. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of editors wouldn't even look at it, but because we've worked together and we've got a great relationship and she understands.
Yep.
And people who are watching this who are creatives will actually find this really interesting. Or when I was writing the book, I just couldn't find the ending. Like I just had it all sort of swirling around in my head, marinating, and then all of a sudden I just hit a block. And you would know as a writer's block is a very real thing.
It is so real.
You can't force creativity, right?
No.
All of a sudden, I literally just woke up. I was like, I've got it. And it just came to me,
Yeah.
And so I quickly, wrote it all down and worked it all out, and we shuffled things around and, all that sort of stuff. And so as much as you say, I'm the one now who obviously has all the copyright to the book and owns the book and all that sort of stuff. You can't write a children's book unless you're an author illustrator together. You do have your team of people around you making it come to fruition. So
yes, absolutely. And I think that collaboration is sometimes where the magic happens. I think it's always really nice to have that other perspective of somebody reading your words and then interpreting them into pictures. Like it's just amazing. And I love that you said before you write in bursts of inspiration, because I'm exactly the same. And I know there's a lot of budding creatives who get really scared off by people saying that you must sit down at your desk and you must write for 30 minutes every day, and you're forming that habit, which works for some people, but my brain does not work like that at all. My timetable does not work like that at all, especially having kids on the spectrum. So with your journey, where do you like to be creative, or how do you like to be creative? Have you got a special place that you go to, or how
I don't really. I draw creativity and dopamine from my environment, obviously, if you couldn't tell, you know, like I'm very visual.
Mm-hmm.
But for Love My ADHD, I was pretty blocked at home. And so I actually took myself off to a cafe in Torquay, which is on the Great Ocean Road here in Australia, for anyone who's international. It was a stormy, cold, rainy, wet day. And I holed myself up inside looking at the ocean, just going crazy in the storm. I had my noise cancelling headphones on, music pumping, which is a really big creative activator for me. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And I just sat in this cafe for hours and I got it done, you know. And it was funny because people were watching. I could see people sort of looking at me and watching, and I'm having coffee after coffee, and then I had some food, and then I'd take a break. But yeah, I needed to get the book finished. I needed to change environment. So I don't necessarily have one or two specific things that I do, but I definitely know that changing environment and being around things that inspire me get my creative brain lit up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we are so similar. Like my writing day starts with me going for a walk somewhere near water. And to me that's work, because so much of writing happens before you sit down at the laptop or you sit down. Like all of this wonderful stuff happens in your head. So oh my gosh, I totally get that. And someone else who writes in a coffee shop, like we just need to like pull together and have a coffee shop just for writers. Like that would be my dream, where it just is an amazing creative place. But what's the best part, do you think, so far about what you've done or what you've accomplished, or what
it has to be all of the parents that just send me the most incredible messages thanking me for writing this book for them, for their children. You know, it's so much more than just a book. It's life-changing information that we're, you know, and I just feel so just so happy for the future generation of neurodivergent children being raised in families where they are just celebrated and informed about the way their brains work from the day they're born. Do you know what I mean? Like I've been talking to my kids about their brain ever since they were babies, even though they couldn't cognitively always understand. It's what they've known. And it's also one of the things that I've really drawn on through my extensive knowledge around trauma and adoption, is that a lot of the information that is shared with adoptive families is that children who know their birth story and their identity from the second they come into their forever families. And I've sort of used this same philosophy with my own kids, and this is what I teach families as well. It's like when you just talk about it like matter of fact, this is who we are, this is how your brain works, you have ADHD, you know, that's just how you think, and all those, just I'm very matter of fact with the way that I talk to it with my kids and how I teach other people too, because then they just start to believe it. Do you know what I mean? And they just take it on as part of their identity. There's no shame, there's no secrets, there's no questions. Lots of curiosity comes with ADHD kids, but they don't ever wake up one day going, well, who the heck am I? Right? Like I know a lot of late to the diagnosis people. I'm one of them as well, but there's been so many questions and reflections and, you know, thinking about our own childhood and our parents and our schooling experiences and all those sorts of things that our kids, we may leave them with other things they'll be wondering about, but it won't be that, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Take away the stigma. Take away the stigma.
100%.
Yeah. Just talk about it's just a matter of fact thing that is a different processing brain. And we keep say that to Tommy all the time. It's just you're wired a certain way that's not typical to a lot of people, but
this is just who you are, kids. And you're amazing, and you will find people who love you and embrace you and accept you. Yeah, we've got some real, you know, social things and, you know, expectations about relationships that we've got to keep working on with our kids. But on the whole, it's, you know, when you are surrounded by people who understand especially when our kids are young, when we're navigating a lot of those really tricky behaviours and medication and, you know, supports and all that sort of stuff, I fundamentally come back to, and I say this to my kids all the time, ADHD is not in your heart. ADHD is in your brain. It sometimes can impact the things that you say or the actions that you take, but ultimately you get to decide who you want to be as a human being. And you can override some of those things, especially as our kids get older, because I've seen this with my kids where my son can say to me, my ADHD told me to do X and I told it no. You know, and this is the whole philosophy that I've talked to my kids about, that fundamentally relationships are about human beings, how you treat people, how you talk to people, you know, how you value those relationships. And that's got nothing to do with being ADHD, but just you as a general all-round awesome human. Right?
Absolutely. And you know, my heart goes out to all of those people in my generation and my husband's generation who didn't have that support and did have the stigma growing up about, you know, oh, you're just the dumb kid, or you're the kid who can't keep their shoes on, or you're the kid who stares out the window and can't focus on the board. You know, I just think that's just, for me, one of those heartbreaking realities of our generation, where we didn't have people like you to be able to say, this is simply a part of the strategy that you're going to have going forward, instead of them really internalizing it and then having all that trauma associated with it. So, I mean, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you always want to be this famous author that you're becoming?
Oh, yeah, totally. I always wanted to be a teacher, always. Took me on. I went the round ways, you know, the sideways version, as many ADHDers do. Took me a little while to actually get to university, a few side steps, but I always wanted to be a teacher. I've always loved and enjoyed children. They just make me laugh. They just bring such incredible energy to the world, and I actually just really enjoy their company. You know what I mean? And I think if you are going to be a teacher, you have to genuinely like children, right?
I think it's necessary, I would say. It seems like it doesn't always happen, but yeah, I'd say it would be a prerequisite.
It doesn't, trust me, you know. And, you know, I've got a lot of empathy for teachers. It's a really hard gig at the moment being in education, especially in Victoria where we're recording this. But it's also an understanding, I truly believe too, I talk to teachers a lot through, you know, PD and that I do with them, that ultimately teaching is all about relationships. It's about a fundamental belief that every child that comes into your classroom is valuable and has something to offer and bring to the classroom. And, you know, I feel like there's a lot of constraints put on teachers because all of the time that they need to build those incredible relationships are taken up with the more mundane, boring, tick the box, NAPLAN, you know, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, which a lot of teachers don't actually agree with anymore, Michelle, anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's really tricky. But yeah, I think teaching was always going to be my calling. I felt very restricted in mainstream education. I was too loud, too opinionated, too much of a rule breaker. I was often getting reprimanded by principals. Not in, you know, you're going to get fired kind of way, but, you know, like,
but yeah, too much.
You would understand that teaching can be a very conservative profession.
Yeah.
And when I found my way into specialist education, I was just home.
Yeah. Happy place.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. So what advice would you have for creatives, and specifically, I guess, creatives with ADHD, because they can be very creative and see the world in such a beautiful lens? What advice would you have for them if they wanted to share their story, for example?
Well, look, I think that, you know, everybody's got a story to tell. And I think, you know, the very real truth is self-publishing a book is very expensive and you've got to back yourself. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of those things that this is my second book and I waited 2 years to write the next one because I feel as ADHDs, we're very good at coming up with projects. and the ideas and all that sort of stuff. But as I always say, there's no point writing a book if no one buys it or no one knows about it, right? And it just sits in your cupboard and no one gets.
Or in your garage in boxes, and your husband's like, are you going to do anything with those books?
Absolutely. So the thing that's worked obviously really well for me and being part of my success was I built the community first. I've got a really engaged, strong community of people who I've worked with, who have been following me for years, who all bought the book, who all bought the first book and then all bought the second book. And so
we love them.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I think, people often look at your success and think, wow, you make it look easy, but it's not easy. And the ideas are the easy part. It's the execution. And I have a team around me as well. I just want to reiterate that. I've got a web developer, I've got Facebook ad specialist, all these people that help me with the back end stuff of running a business, because you can't do it all yourself. But I think the thing about storytelling is books now, especially, so my book retails for $27, which is a lot of money for a book. You can go to Kmart and buy a book now for $10 or in Aldi for $7. Do you know what I mean? It's part of the sell of a therapeutic book like this is that the tool and the impact that it's actually making. And so it's not just a book, it's investing $27 into your child's future. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of the success of the book. It's really about, yes, it's about enjoying the story, but it's also really about equipping your child to understand themselves. And so I guess, like you said in the beginning, when you write a book, there's writing the book, which is the easy part, and you've got to either get a publisher or self-publish the book, but then you've got to sell the book.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I would, if anyone's listening to this and thinks, I'd really love to write a book, I would say absolutely go for it. But I think you need to go into it also having really clear understandings about how you're going to get it out there and who your target market is, right? Because I'd love to write a book about adoption because my kids are adopted, but it's also a niche market. Do you know what I mean? It's like, whereas ADHD is like right on the top of the, conversation list at the moment. Love Your Brain, my first book, was more generalized, so it appealed to a wider market. And I think if your book is about a niche topic, you have to think really carefully about, well, how many copies can you actually sell? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it's finding that balance between writing the book that you want to write and making an economic decision about, look, even though this is something I'm passionate about, it can't be something that makes me go bankrupt.
That's exactly right.
So I think, and a lot of creatives are like that they have a story that they want to tell, but being very open and honest about what is going to be the financial cost to me of sharing that story. I think that's really important, that people are made aware of that before they start, because we all love that kind of beautiful creative feeling of wanting to be an author, and there is this other side of it which is very business minded and very practical, and a lot of creative people struggle with that.
And it was very strategic for me. Like I said in the beginning, it was about boosting my credibility. It was part of my brand awareness strategy, which is one of the things I've come to realize about myself is I'm very strategic and in business. And I never thought that I was, but I think, when you've been in business a decade, you get smarter and, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like having a strategy around these sorts of things, why are you doing it? Because it will take up a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of energy, a lot of heart and soul.
Yes.
And you have to truly believe in what you're writing and what you're selling to make it a success.
Totally agree. Now, if anyone watching wants to get a copy of the book, or actually wants to contact you as well to find out a little bit more about what you do, any collaborations that they might like, what's the best way they can get in contact with you?
That would be amazing. I love collaborating with other people, especially as a solopreneur. But so anyone can contact me through my website, which is www.chaos2calmconsultancy.com, which is my business name. I am always on Instagram. I love Instagram. I love my community. I love chatting away on video, which is one of my real strengths, and connecting with people through that platform. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of speaking this year. I've moved away a little bit from one-to-one work, but I've got heaps of online resources available, courses, webinars, books, all those sorts of things for people to be able to tap into my knowledge as well.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'll put all those links in the comments and the description. So anyone watching, please, 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 if you can get in contact with Chrissie, if what she said today resonates with you. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. I'm super excited. We have unleashed the genie here.
Yes.
I think, the sky's the limit. So I really look forward to talking to you about your next project.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a great chat.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful journey. And thank you everyone for watching another episode of Meet a Creative.